GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
So, Fat Man.
Sleazy, you're back!
Yes, and I can actually talk.
You didn't have that hermaphroditic dick in your mouth this time.
No, but I had 2 wisdom teeth out, and I didn't have a good time. So I heard you guys talked about Elimination Chamber, so I'm going to give you the 20-second rating. Okay?
Go.
Okay. SmackDown Elimination Chamber, 4 stars. U.S. title match, 3 stars. Women's tag title match, 2 stars. Raw Chamber match, 4 stars. Meltzer's ratings, real quick. SmackDown Elimination Chamber, 4.25. U.S. title, 3.25. Women's tag title match, 2.75. Raw Chamber match, 4. I thought the Raw Chamber match was better, but just by a hair. Done.
Okay.
Let's get on to the show. Welcome, everyone. This is Sleazy.
This is the Fat Man.
And welcome, everyone, to another wonderful episode. We're not going to talk about Blue Stock Nancy, other than the fact that we've used their song for such a long time that I think it's about time for us to have a little bit of change. We are changing the format, obviously. So we're going to be looking for a new theme song. I love Blue Smock Nancy. They've been awesome to us. They've let us use that wonderful song Unsettling Differences that you can find on iTunes and Spotify. But it's time for us to move on as a show. So you'll be hearing a bunch of different options as weeks go on. We'll see what happens, okay? So anyway, Ryan Williams is on tonight.
Hey, yo.
And holy shit, we got a full fucking lineup here. Chip Willett's also with us.
Been a long time since that's happened consecutively.
Yeah, the only one missing is the midget, and I don't even remember the last time he was on.
Years ago.
Feels like it. So we've got a full stack show. Fat Man.
Yes, Sleazy.
What do you want to start with?
Well, we don't have a show to review. I mean, there is an AEW show Saturday. If we have time, we'll preview it. But
Sunday.
Or Sunday, yes, you're right. I'm used to them being on Saturdays. That's actually on a Sunday. So,
thank you for reminding me, actually.
But we're going to do a new segment here, and I'm actually excited about this. I stole this from Matt Johnson blatantly. It's going to be called What If? And we're going to do what if this didn't happen, or what if that happened, or, something like that. And this week, we're going to cover what if Kevin Nash and Scott Hall did not go to WCW.
So, for people who are not familiar with Matt Johnson's from the BICBP network. He's got a multitude of shows. He has a great podcast network. They're all a great group of guys because I had to get that in.
Thank you.
But for our fans, they probably most well know him as being the innovator of the WNY PodCon. But he's also part of the 2-point conversation. Okay. Thank you. And multitude of other podcasts, but okay, go on. Sorry.
So, like I said, what if Razor and Diesel didn't go to WCW? There's just so much stuff that happened that stemmed off from that it would change the course of wrestling history. So one, right off the bat, you wouldn't have Mick Foley feuding with Undertaker right off the bat because Diesel was supposed to have a program with Undertaker through the summer. You would not have the NWO.
I disagree.
You disagree?
That idea was still in Bischoff's head anyways. They would have used different people, but you still would have had the NWO.
Okay, well, then let's build off that then. Let's they may have had different people. Do you think it would have been as big of a hit?
God, no.
Okay. So, with that being said, no NWO. You wouldn't have the curtain call, which Hunter Hearst was supposed to win the 96 King of the Ring. Austin won it instead. Austin 316's born. You would never have that. Would Austin be this massive star that he became? That is a question I'm asking everyone.
Say the question again?
Would Austin have been, because of the curtain call, Austin got the nod at the King of the Ring 96 instead of Triple H?
Yeah.
Austin 316 never would have been said. Would Austin have been the biggest star in the history of the business if that didn't happen?
Biggest star, I don't know, but he definitely would have been a main player still.
I would say absolutely he would. And I'll say that with this thought behind it. He said the whole Austin 316 thing. That specific piece of merch, the Austin 316 shirt, probably one of the, I think it's the highest selling shirt of all time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would not have
Or the
existed.
NWO shirt.
Yeah, one of the two. Everyone had one. Everyone had one. Everyone has one still. I have a Wolfpack shirt still. But
I also have an NWO red and black shirt.
see?
I don't think I ever did.
But if you remember that time frame, 96, Austin was still not, even after he won the King of the Ring, he wasn't that hot still. He really wasn't that hot until really the next year.
His feud with Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what put him on the
Hart-
map.
But I'm sorry, Ron, but does Bret Hart choose Austin to face if not for that moment?
I'd say yes.
Yes, because even if he doesn't do the King of the Ring win, his match with Brett, the feud with Brett, that didn't start till like almost end of 96.
Yeah.
Right? So like you don't, I feel if you're talking about it that way, Austin's push because of Brett leaving and having to be the next guy, that don't happen. If Razor and Diesel don't leave.
Okay. Also, and this is even further down the line, there's no NWO. Or what you said you think there will be. It wouldn't get
I don't think it had the same effect, but there's
Okay.
still going to be an NWO. Bischoff
Okay.
wanted to do that.
Okay. So it wouldn't be as hot, which WCW wouldn't have gotten as big. They wouldn't have had as much money to spend. Does the Montreal Screwjob even happen?
I would say no. I really don't believe, because I think what would have happened is that Shawn still would have been the guy. I think that Brett would have passed him the title. It just wouldn't have been as acrimonious as it was. There's always been a small subset of the wrestling population that thought that the screw job was a work. I know it's like fucking flat earthers, for fuck's sake.
Okay, again, the problem is like when you look at it, there's certain things that point to that being a work that you kind of got to fight. Vince McMahon didn't sell two blown fucking pots and sold a punch in front of a camera from Bret Hart on a documentary. I mean, like,
Of course he's going to sell that. To be fair, Vince is going to sell anything in front of the boys, even if there wasn't a camera.
he didn't sell blowing two quads during the Rumble.
That's out in front though. That's the difference. You're talking about in the back, irrespective if there's a camera there, you've pissed off probably one of the biggest stars that you've had. And more importantly, you've ruined some respect there. You have to give the Iggy. You have to take the punch. And of course he's going to crumple for him. So it's more of a respect thing more than anything
we got an hour in news and rumors to talk about this. We can go a little bit in depth. Ryan, you said you think the NWO was going to happen. Who would WCW get?
You wouldn't use Sting anyways, because it was just that watching those other guys coming in, like there was still that angriness. I don't know who your other two guys were. I'm trying to think of the guys that left WWE around that time within that year that would have been the tag team to bring in. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But if you do it with Sting and two WCW guys, it still would have happened. It's just, it doesn't affect it the same way. And we don't get fake Razor and fake Diesel. And I mean, come on.
Do you think, well, I want to touch on that a little bit too, because fake Diesel was Kane. But, would you have, as WCW, would you make a play for Hogan? Anyway.
They already had Hogan.
They already had Hogan.
Did they have Hogan by 96?
Yeah, they had him in 94.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So why wouldn't you use Hogan as part of the NWO anyway? He still would have been a perfect third member.
The reason you don't use Hogan is because without Hall and Nash, you don't have that full WWF mentality.
Don't you have, let's see here, who was on the roster? 96.
You could do Dom Dallas Page back then.
Savage.
You had Savage. This is going to sound stupid, but you had Earthquake. You had Earthquake?
But that's the problem. All of those other guys are just after coming out of a feud with Hogan and Savage. It's Dungeon of Doom and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It wouldn't be
You
easy.
can't beat them, join them, but like, no, we're joining you to fuck them over.
Yeah, but you still have the moment of whose side is he on at that moment, because it would, honestly, it would be even more of a shock if he aligned with Earthquake and Savage in that respect.
Luger was in WCW, but he just came from the WWF about a year before. So 10 months before or something like that. So
I mean, there definitely
done Luger, Hogan, and Savage.
Yeah.
Those are really big names. Will it be taken off as much as it did? If they used them, it probably could have been big, but I don't think I think Ryan's right. I don't think it would have been as big as it eventually became.
No, nowhere near it.
Yeah. And you also have
that. Oh, go ahead, Susie. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you also have to kind of, and I hate saying it this way, but it's the truth. You kind of have to factor in the fact that Hall and Nash's contracts were bumping themselves up every time they brought somebody else in. So there was this kind of push. What's that?
That was brilliant, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Hall and Nash doing that for their contracts was probably the best possible thing they could have ever done. But here's the other thing is, when you're being paid that much amount of money, there's a little bit of a push to use them more because you're paying this amount of money. You're not going to have them sitting on the sidelines for that amount. So there's going to be more exposure with those guys than normal. That's part of the reason why the NWO worked, I don't want to say so well, but definitely had so much exposure on TV, is because they were merch magnets. Plus they were, being shoved down our throats all the time. Every match was two guys got in the ring, wrestled, and then the NWO interfered. That was the main event of Nitro.
That didn't happen till like mid '97. Like when you think about by the end of '96, there was only like 4 or 5 members of the NWO at most.
Mm-hmm. But it was still dominating the upper card because of the sheer amount of star power, whichever way you wanted to call it, whether it be because of the money or because of the actual stars in those roles.
On that note, does like we said, WCW probably would have made all this money. Do they go down quicker, or do they actually, does it actually slow down, or are they still in business today? Like, because you got to think all those contracts the NWO created, and then it just went on and on and on and on and on. But then I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
Here's an interesting thing to think about as well. With the NWO maybe never forming, if we go to another federation, like say NJPW, does the Bullet Club form? Because they're kind of based off the NWO. The idea of the NWO is what the Bullet Club is based on.
Yes, they do. Because where Eric Bischoff stole that idea was from New Japan. Mm-hmm. So that Bullet Club happens. Like that's
in that route.
It doesn't look the same way.
No.
Okay, I don't think the Attitude Era happened.
Yeah, that's the big question we've had about this.
Because, like I said, if the Montreal Screwjob doesn't happen, the Mr. McMahon character doesn't happen, and they're losing, essentially, Vince McMahon was their top heel from like 98 to like mid 99. That's what, 16, 18 months of boom business. Yeah, I agree. I don't think the Attitude Era happens at all. We may still see fucking TJ Hopper. Like, or TL Hopper, where the hell is the fucking plumber's guy's name was. Like, the business will look totally different if those two guys didn't leave.
I honestly don't believe that WWE would be that much further away from death.
They wouldn't.
I don't believe WWE as a company would be, I'm not going to say that they would be completely dead, but certainly not nearly the conglomerate they are now.
They would not, they'll still be a privately traded, they wouldn't be a publicly traded company. No.
Right. I still think WCW dies in 2001 only because the reason why it was sold had nothing to do with the fact that they were making money or not.
AOL Time Warner.
Yeah, so that was going to happen no matter what. That might have been accelerated, but it was going to happen. WWF, WWE, I don't think would exist the way it does now. I would say it would be about as big as like a super powered Ring of Honor. Where it was like, it still had some syndication. It still had a weekly TV show.
I don't, okay. I think they'd still be on USA Network.
Maybe so, but they certainly wouldn't be getting shit ton of money for it.
You're right. No, their rights fees would, not be what they are today. Definitely. No, and like I said, that's one. It's fun going back and doing all this stuff because you just don't know what ifs would happen. And we can also say, well, what if? What would you do too? Like, Diesel and Razor are still there. Razor was supposed to be in a program with Goldust. Hated the Goldust character. Diesel was supposed to go through the summer feud with The Undertaker, and like I said before, Mick Foley comes in as Mankind and immediately goes after The Undertaker. That doesn't happen if Diesel leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So, what will Mick Foley's career look like? Also,
here's another question that kind of gets thrown around. What does ECW look like then? Because as much as we talk about, WCW, WWF, WWE, don't forget that ECW was working with WWE at one point, and they still had their own churning. Does Brian Pillman still go to WWF? Does, obviously the big one is, does Owen Hart survive? Would Owen Hart still be here?
Because Brett will still be there.
Exactly. There's a lot of people that probably would have survived that era.
Don't get me wrong. I think ECW's future is exactly the same. Exactly the same. Nothing changes ECW's future at all.
I disagree because WWE would not buy the IP.
They bought it out of bankruptcy court.
Right. I don't think they would have. I do not think they would have.
Oh, yes, they would have.
Because I don't think they would have had the money for it.
They only bought the tape library. They didn't buy any contracts or nothing. They bought the tape library.
They bought more than that because they bought IP from them too.
Well, they bought the ECW name and they bought the tape library. I don't think they paid as much for it as you think they did.
Let me find out while you're continuing talking.
Because, and I may double down on this. The dollar I owe you, double or nothing. I think they paid less for the IP than what they paid for WCW.
That may be true.
And they only spent between $2 and $3 million on WCW.
Okay, don't take that bet, please. You get your dollar for fuck's sake.
So I don't think you're thinking. I think ECW's their trajectory, just because WWE. But you're still making the point. You said that WWE wouldn't buy them. Whatever, it doesn't matter. ECW is still closing the doors because just because Diesel and Razor left doesn't mean Paul Heyman miraculously became this great businessman. So.
No, but realistically, without the Attitude Era, which was ECW, like, I don't see Foley leaving ECW.
He signed before Diesel and Razor even left. So he's already in the company. So that's moot.
Yeah, but, okay, now they're Chachi. If we're talking about Diesel and Razor not leaving, their son and Foley, like, this is not, okay, they leave this day. WWE is the company that strategically plans shit all the time. They know Diesel and Razor are leaving. That's 6 months, 3 to 6 months.
That's probably 2 or 3 months, according to Bruce Pritchard. Probably around February they knew. And Diesel and their last matches were in May. So 3 months.
A lot happens for booking wise in 3 months when they're running TV and when they're running a big fed like that. So it does kind of.
I think Foley's signing either way. I don't think Foley's staying in ECW. He's signing with WWF.
I
think Paul would have pushed him to go to WWF.
But that goes back to the same thing Sleazy's talking about. Like the money wise, what's the appeal to go if it's just a regular company?
What, WWF?
Yeah, like
more money?
The name? the name?
You are 100% making more money in WWF than you would in ECW.
Even in a hobbled WWF, you're still making more money.
Okay.
And by the way, I can't find the exact number that WWE purchased for it, but let me give you these numbers. When ECW shuttered, the company was listed as having assets totaling $1.385 million. Included in that number was $860,000 in accounts receivable owed to the company by In Demand Network, which was the pay-per-view company they were using, a claim for the video game that they had released, the original San Francisco toy company for the action figures that they had. Additionally, they claimed that the assets of the videotape library itself were worth $500,000. There was the infamous 1998 Ford truck that Tommy Dreamer bought for $20,000, and then the remaining inventory of merchandise, which was $4.
So they spent $500,000.
No,
on a tape
that's the thing, is that the liabilities of the company totaled $8.8 million.
Yeah.
So there was a shit ton of money still needed to own it, and I'm positive that they paid more than $500,000 for those assets, because just to get that stuff out of there, they would have easily been able to raise more than that from WWE.
But they didn't spend I guarantee you they did not spend as much money as they did on ECW than they did on WCW.
Oh, I don't think so either. I absolutely agree.
To be generous, let's just say $1 million. I think that's on the high end. I don't think they spent $1 million.
Yeah.
I do not think so at all.
So I have a name that may not have gotten the notoriety that it did if Diesel and Razor Ramon had stayed in the WWF. Sean Waltman, X-Pac. Would he have made it as the 1, 2, 3 kid in WWF, or would he wouldn't have gotten the notoriety, I don't think, had he left and gone to, and stayed in WWF, because as much as he was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, he wasn't going anywhere. He was standing still.
That's actually an interesting point that he does bring up. On a totally different level. Yeah, you don't get 6, so he's not gonna. I don't think he's going to sign if Razor and Diesel doesn't go because they're buddies.
Right.
Also, backstage, the Clique.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all going to still be together instead of split up. How's the backstage dynamic go? What influence? Because everyone says, Shawn Michaels can influence booking. Bruce Pritchard says that's stupid, but clearly, they're all top guys. But in '95, Triple H was not a top guy. Sorry.
So here's my question: you can influence and say wherever the fuck you want. Like at the end of the day, it's the booker that does it, regardless if the boss had pull or influence or whatever.
No, I think I know what you're trying to say, and I'm going to actually agree with you. Is that if they come up with an idea, or say they don't like an idea, and say, well, you know what, maybe I really don't like this, but what if we do this, and it's better than what they did? They're going to look at it as, oh, they're influential, or they just came up with a better fucking idea.
Yeah,
and that's
Razor Ramon gets the world title out of it if they don't leave. You will.
I think he does. I think he beats Michaels. You don't get Vader versus Michaels, though, I don't think. But Vince does like his monster, so maybe you do still have that match.
Hart still works at this point, too. You also have to think that Bret Hart didn't get injured by Goldberg.
Yes.
Would Goldberg come over?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
would Goldberg be as big as he was, though?
No.
Because guess who beat him?
Kevin Nash.
But I actually do think Goldberg will still be as over, because what Bischoff has said, he said, we just put Bill Goldberg out there, and since he's done this bit several times, he came out, he started, he spit, kicked you again, speared you, jackhammer you in the shower 7 minutes later. And the fans were loving it. So it didn't matter if Hall and Nash were there. I think Goldberg was a fan.
Well, here's the other thing about Goldberg.
That's true, too.
The reason why Goldberg worked, I think, partially was because Goldberg was a single wrecking ball that could potentially have beaten the NWO, because at that point, the NWO was pretty much untouchable. Yeah. And to have somebody that truly could stand up by themselves up against somebody as massive as the NWO would make a huge babyface star out of them. But outside of that, there is nobody then, because the NWO doesn't work as well as it does. What, you got Hogan up against him?
But he really never was in a storyline with the NWO, though.
He wasn't, but there was... You're right. But he was still this.
So you're saying that the dynamic of the NWO being there made the fans be like, this guy could beat the NWO,
yeah.
Even though, okay.
I think not only that, but it's also the fact that there was no babyface presence that was super powered. Everybody was like.
Everyone was nerfed.
Yeah. And Goldberg was the first one that wasn't nerfed, and his matches were different than what was happening with the NWO matches. You'd have a main event, it'd get fucked by the NWO running in. Every single match was, okay, 2 guys would fight, and then the NWO would run in. Goldberg, it didn't matter, because he came out there, did the bit, went home, and people were loving it.
It was just smart on Goldberg's side, because he knew how long it took an entrance for the NWO members. Just go out and squash somebody, and they can't come out.
I mean, yeah.
And again, going back on it, Bret Hart's, I don't know, still working now. He's in his late fit. He could be, the Montreal Screwdown never happens. Bret could probably be still an agent or a trainer in NXT right now, or definitely an agent.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
So, what about the umbrella effect? look at short term versus like if this don't happen, the short term is what you go a year. Or you say Diesel works an angle with Taker.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an upper mid card feud.
Yep.
I mean, that don't really change anything for how it's going to go. Taker's probably going to go over. Razor might get a world title shot within the next 12 months. X-Pac don't go anywhere. Bret's there for a little bit, and then he still gets in this feud with Austin after the fact. Austin still got his mediocre rise. Triple H wins the King of the Ring, and everybody shits on him because he's got a stupid King gimmick. It's the only real thing short term over the next year of them not leaving. I see anything bad coming from it. And Triple H is still going to be jobbing the Michaels in the main event anyway.
Yeah.
Do you see the Radicals coming over?
God damn it! I was about to say that. But I was like, what happens with Benoit, Jericho, and
eventually?
All that?
Yeah, Jericho, Rey Mysterio.
Rey Mysterio eventually, yeah, because like you said that WCW's fate
was still happening.
It was still happening. So Mysterio was coming over. I think Benoit, Jericho, Malenko, Saturn, Guerrero, I think they're still going to eventually make it into WWE. Eventually.
But does that happen?
It been as big as it was with the NWO, with Razor and Diesel forgoing WWF and going to WCW. Is it as big of an impact of them coming as well? And the vice versa scenario. Is it as big if they don't make the jump?
If I believe correctly, the reason why they left WCW was because, yes, everyone was getting squashed by the NWO, but also they were smaller wrestlers and weren't getting pushed up the card. Like Malenko said, yeah, they're getting TV exposure. Yeah, they were winning titles, but they were still, and they were getting paid well, but they were still getting misused. So.
I want to take a minute on that aside. Guys, as a general rule, were not getting paid as well in WCW. That's why they jumped over. But if you're saying that the most profitable era of wrestling business never happened because the Attitude Era effectively didn't happen, those guys still wouldn't be paid that much more in WWF. But here's the other.
They didn't come over for money.
They didn't either. Yeah. But here's the other thing that I want to kind of throw out there, and it's a little bit darker. Do you see a lot of these guys getting into drugs then as much? Because
yes,
there's still a lot less money to go around, so they wouldn't be abusing it as much.
I don't believe that at all.
They're still doing steroids.
No,
yeah, they would still be doing
steroids
and somas and stuff like that.
An addict's an addict, no matter how much money they have.
Mm-hmm.
They'll find a way. I don't know. I think still gonna be. That's still gonna happen.
So you still have Guerrero dying in 04. Or 05.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The reason why he got into a car crash.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what really did it for him. So I
don't see Benoit and them leaving.
You don't?
WCW was always more of a wrestler fed than it was a sports entertainment fed, we'll call it. While WWE was always more kind of gimmicky and stuff. The boys would have had more opportunities had the NWO not been there because most of the NWO was your main event guys that weren't cheering.
So you're saying is the NWO not there? Because you said it would be some form of it, but if the NWO is not there, these guys are going to get pushed.
Yeah, because you're going to have smaller guys too to match up instead of just these bigger guys coming from WWE. In terms of not just bigger by name, but bigger by size, and you look at the rest of them, you kind of got to work with your little people.
That's a good point.
The Cruiserweight division would have been a lot bigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Benoit and them don't need to leave, at that point, because the version of the NWO that we know was always keeping people down or doing all their running. The version of the NWO that you might have gotten is not going to be the same booked at all. You don't have the name power. You don't got that aura it changes everything.
If
the Four Horsemen actually beat the NWO.
Yeah. There's an interesting point. Is that then you have
if Bischoff is booking it, I still think you're going to have those stupid ass things. But we don't know. We weren't there. Was Hogan involved in the booking too? Was Hogan the one making these, or was it Bischoff? Bischoff always says Hogan had nothing to do with it. Blah, blah,
that
blah.
don't work for me, brother.
But
Yeah.
But it's interesting, and I love discussing this because it's interesting what if happened, and we barely touched on Austin. Like we said, Austin. You know what?
He's big, but he's not like meteoric rise. I don't.
Yes, the King of the Ring. He'll lose millions of dollars on fucking merch.
Mm-hmm.
Millions. Because that Austin 316 doesn't happen. But his feud with Bret Hart was the one that made him. I don't know. I think he's still...
Do you have rabid fans then? Because part of the reason why The Rock became The Rock was because of rabid fans shitting on him because they were so passionate about wrestling, because wrestling was so hot in 97 to 2000.
I think the Austin character is still the same Austin character. He's just no Austin 316.
Yeah, I'm talking about The Rock, though. Does The Rock become The Rock?
I think so. Because with Austin still having that character, I think the fans will eventually shift to Austin and do it, and Austin will probably... It may have been a couple more years down the line. It would have been like a meteoric rise. But I still don't think... I think The Rock will still be The Rock.
Okay. I don't think he would be as over as a heel. I don't think he would be as big as he would be. He would still have
Austin.
Yeah, and neither would Austin.
I think they'd be from... Out of a 10 scale, I don't know how to do a video podcast anymore, but out of a 10 scale, Austin's obviously will be like, Rock and Austin will be 10 out of 10. Like, fan base, rabbit wise. They'd probably be about a 7. Like, but I think they'd still be stars. It's just, they wouldn't be, The Rock probably wouldn't be the biggest movie star in the world. Well, maybe he would, because he's so charismatic. But,
so over under here now, just for my own mind, because I like this stuff, is this going to be the one we rate all the other what ifs on?
yes.
Well, you know what I mean? Like,
this is the big one. Like, this is the one that initially came to my mind. We can do, and like, if you have something in mind, go ahead and just, we'll do it on another segment. Like, and it doesn't have to go this in depth like it is, I was just sitting down one day.
I like the in-depth part, but I'm just trying to think of other foolish things, and not to say any, but just anything else on what if would happen. Does anything else we cover have the most wide impact and spider web?
I don't think so.
So I also want to open that out to our audience members out there, our multitude of fan. Hit us up on @SleazyFatMan on Twitter. Tweet at us what you consider would be an interesting thought for what if. What if, I don't know, Ric Flair jumped in 88
instead of 90.
People,
91.
I don't know who brought that up originally, but it's been floating around the internet a lot recently. I don't know why. Probably because
Flair brought it up.
Oh, did Flair bring it up? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. Let us know. Let us know @SleazyFatMan or tweet at any one of us here on the show. Okay, we'll be back after these messages. So let's get into...
go, like I say, Sleazy's probably a good transition. We can go way longer into this, but again, we got to keep it an hour. I got news and rumors here. I know Sleazy wants to talk about one of them in particular.
Oh, yeah.
So, and this is kind of like a correlation of each other. Takahashi, who was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, tore his pectoral muscle, will be out for 6 months. So they had like a little match at Castle Attack. Bushi wins it. And at the end of the night, challenges Kota Ibushi for the Intercontinental title at their anniversary show. However, the next fucking day, they announce that the Intercontinental and World titles are now unified.
not just unified, but cease to exist. Because the new title that they created is now officially the IWGP World Championship. Now, currently, the current IWGP Championship was considered a world title, but it wasn't a world title in New Japan. And second of all, how is a promotion in Japan have an intercontinental title? Anyway, so
they don't now.
How does a promotion in Japan have a United States title?
Because they have a dojo in the U.S. I can justify that one, but so
but they work in the U.S. So I can justify the intercontinental title. Lawyered bitch.
Fair. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll absolutely give you that then. I have 3 problems with it. Number 1, you're erasing the legacy of the IWGP title by doing this. Number 2, you're erasing the hard work of that one Asian that's in WWE that put that title on his fucking back for years, Shinsuke Nakamura. And to a lesser extent, but also true, Chris Jericho, and how he elevated the title even higher too. Number 3, why would you erase the legacy of a title that's been around effectively for nearly 45 years?
50 years.
50 years? How?
That'd be like saying WWF getting ready, or WWE getting ready to intercontinental title.
They did.
They did, but the difference is that they didn't replace it with a new... It's like taking the WWE title and saying, this no longer exists. We're going to do the World Heavyweight Championship with a brand new title, brand new everything, nothing else before it mattered.
Did they come on and officially say that, though?
That's what they're claiming, is that Kota Ibushi is the first champion of this new title.
That's what they were talking about on after Castle Attack, yeah.
It's strange. It's really strange. And you're absolutely right. The booking makes no sense. It's like they did it like out of nowhere. And I wonder if it was...
Because I was thinking that would be the perfect... Sorry to interrupt you again.
No, go for it.
The perfect opportunity to get the Intercontinental title off the World Champions, give it to Bushi, and then you can have, when Takahashi comes back, have him beat Bushi. Takahashi will go elevated up to be the Intercontinental Champion. It would be fucking perfect, because you said during the Wrestle Kingdom thing, or review, was Takahashi's the next Liger, but Takahashi could wrestle. Yes, he's a junior heavyweight, but he could fucking main event.
Absolutely.
So there'll be the perfect opportunity to do it, and they just were like, no, they're still going to wrestle, but it's a non-title match.
I think part of the problem is that the Intercontinental title is almost too prestigious.
Not anymore.
Well, now it's gone, but I mean, it was so close to being a top level title that at some points it was. I mean, the Jericho match, when he had the IC title, main evented. You know, there are many times where Nakamura's match was the second to last match, but it was the match everyone was looking forward to. You know, there were many times where the IC belt had more prestige and more rub on it than even the IWGP title. And that was during Okada's 2-year run. I also...
I don't know about that. I think Okada was still the man.
I think he was too, but everyone knew he wasn't going to get beat. You know what I mean? But the IC belt was the belt that could potentially be the cool spoiler thing. I think. But here's the other part of this that kind of goes in the favor of what they're doing. How many fucking singles belts do they fucking have in New Japan now?
5.
You've got the world title. Before this happened, you had the world title, you had the IC title. Okay?
US.
You had the US title. You have
Heavyweight.
the junior heavyweight. You had the never open weight one.
Never open.
Yeah.
So that's 5 titles, plus the fact that while this was all going on, they had briefcases that they were doing back and forth. They had the best of the Super Juniors, which was considered a challengeable title, even though it was technically a trophy. And then obviously G1. which could come up for grabs. So that was effectively a title. So in theory, you had 8 different potential singles title matches going around at any one time, which makes great sense if you're running a shit ton of shows. But if you're only running 12 shows a year because of COVID, okay, you might have to condense some of those. The way they're doing it, absolutely stupid. You know what they should have done? Is they should have merged the IWGP Junior Heavyweight and the Intercontinental one. That would have been the smart idea.
Or the U.S. title with the Intercontinental title.
I think the U.S. title...
No, because they can't get rid of the U.S. title because they still want to do NWGP
yeah.
over there in the States. So they're not going to get rid of that U.S. title.
That's going to be their European title. There's no other way to put it. I don't see them making that more than a tertiary title. However, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title has a huge amount of prestige to it. It's usually the top title for most guys in New Japan, and it had been for years. It was like the thing to do if you weren't 280 and ripped to fucking hell and back. So to merge it with the IWGP IC belt made a lot of sense because then you could make it an open weight belt. You didn't have to make it look like, oh, it's only for the juniors.
Right.
So,
but then you'll have to do that with the tag titles and the junior tag titles.
I would also do it with the junior tag titles and the tag titles for exactly the same reason. Because honestly, there's no reason to have weight classes there. There really isn't. I don't think.
No, yeah, I agree. And speaking of that, surprisingly, Moxley retained the U.S. title?
100% shocked.
Everyone's shocked on that one.
I think that's why they did it.
There's no way John Moxley's keeping.
I really think that's why they did it. Everyone's like, Kenta's going to win. He's going to go back. I think they did it just to be like, no one's predicting it.
Fair.
That's ghetto booking right there.
Big Show signed for the AEW?
This came out of left field.
Seriously.
Apparently his contract ended in January.
January, yeah.
Yeah, the Legends of the Wrestling was his last official show that he was a part of. A contractually obligated.
And they couldn't come to terms or something, so he just went to AEW. Who I guess he's going to be a commentator and a wrestler.
Long term, too.
Expect a feud with Shaq.
So good sign for AEW for the mind of wrestling that Big Show can show the 4 big guys on the AEW roster.
I don't mind the signing. Like, it's just, that's another one that just kind of came out of left field. And quite frankly, and we can discuss this, I think AEW'd it by announcing he signed. I thought they should have just had him show up on Dynamite. Yes, you want to advertise that to pop a rating. I get the strategy around it, but it's more likely of you don't know what's going to happen on Dynamite. Look who just showed up. Big Show showed up. So that's my thinking behind it.
If he's wrestling all the time, yeah. Wrestler, commentator, do it the way you do.
You don't think he's going to be that much of value to them, or?
No, I just think that if he's going as a wrestler, do what Fat Man said. Don't say he's coming and have him show up. But where he's going to commentate one of your shows and you're going to be a commentator more than you are a wrestler, do it the way they did it. You're going to be a wrestler more than you are a commentator, do it the way Fat Man said.
I see the logic. But what you're saying, but I still think they should have just been like,
I think it's too big of a name.
Yeah.
Not to pull the surprise out.
Plus, again, no one knew. So
yeah, no one saw that coming.
No one would have predicted that.
Meltzer wasn't jumping up and down and saying, Big Show's defecting.
Fuck Dave Meltzer, by the way.
Meltzer's over there on Wednesday night going, I knew it was going to happen. I had inside information. Make sure you buy my News subscription at $12.99, please.
Got a ton of AEWs. AEW's interested in Zelina Vega. I mean, who wouldn't be?
I mean,
What?
I'm married, but she fine. She fine.
I had bids on her.
You do have bids on her, though.
And AEW is partnered with Cinemark Theaters to host Revolution in select theaters.
The fuck is this shit?
They're doing the local, well, not local to me anymore, but back where I used to live, Rundle Mills, I got an email about it saying how they're going to have it at the Rundle Mills Theater for it.
Wait a second here. Whoa. This 3 pieces of AEW news in a row. What are you on the payroll now?
Meltzer.
Fucking Meltzer.
Meltzer.
I actually had 4 pieces of AEW news.
Oh, God.
But,
No, he's better than Meltzer.
but the amount of people who will leave WWE for AEW will shock you.
Because he,
Matt Riddle and Chelsea Green resigns for WWE.
he is the Shockmaster.
I have to do that every time because I think when AEW first did, Meltzer's like 90% of the WWE roster wants to leave for AEW.
Which was the Revival and 2...
Jericho and
Jericho? Yeah.
Yeah.
4 people. So every time it's like the amount of people that want to leave, and then he said like the amount of people that want to leave WWE for AEW is absolutely shocking.
I think when it came to where people went mostly, they went to TNA after WWE and not AEW.
Yeah, about half
Well,
of them
guess
did.
who has a working relationship with?
Well,
Impact
now,
right
yeah, well, now, back then they did.
So,
Yeah.
actually, this is really not much WWE news. Actually, it's like no WWE news besides that. NWA.
Fucking WWE champion we had last night.
I was like, should we talk about that?
Oh, everyone knew about that. NWA removed all their videos from YouTube, but yet that announced they're having a pay-per-view March 21st.
What I read on that was they got a new distributor. I think so. All the old footage came down for however they're putting the new footage up.
Okay.
Cool.
They're having a tape in, I want to say March 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and they're going to tape a pile of shit. But yeah, no, that got pulled out from the distributor or something.
I think 21st is the pay-per-view. It's called Attack the...
Back out attack.
Or something like that, yeah. Back to Attack or something like that. Yeah, it's something like that.
I feel like there's going to be a new NWA champion crowned, and they call it sleep.
Bailey Matthews, which is William Regal's son, makes his debut in NXT UK.
Nice.
And I didn't even know about this. Devon Dudley suffered a stroke in November?
Yeah, he said it on a podcast. Like 2-3 months later, he said, "Oh, I was in
2-3 months
some shit."
later, as in like last week.
Well, 2-3 months after it happened.
And that's it.
You didn't say the one thing that...
That has something to do with an Asian sleazy.
No.
Oh, by the way, yes, there's a new WWE champion, Bobby Lashley. There you go, Ryan. I said it.
Thank you.
The first day after Black History Month.
No, someone made a joke about that today. I was like, wow.
Travis.
I mean, didn't he? No, right, because in Canada it was the next day, but in the States it would have been the same.
No, it was still March 1st in the States.
Yep.
In Canada it was March 2nd.
Canada don't count.
Wow, that's fucking hurtful, isn't it?
Wow.
That's the fucking point.
I almost want to say one of the few things Sleazy doesn't want me to say.
What's that?
Nope. You'll have to go edit it right after this.
God damn it.
Don't forget, AEW is Sunday. Oh, shit.
AEW Revolution, right?
Yes.
Moxley win the belt back?
No.
Well, I can't find the news, but I know it was something Brian Alvarez said. They're moving NXT to Tuesdays.
Oh, I didn't even look at that.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
That was the rumor.
Well, I thought NXT to Tuesdays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, cool, because open up the viewers. It's just, I don't like that idea just because I think AEW is going to be like, they left because they couldn't beat us. What the fuck?
they're already talking shit. It's like, we're beating you in the ratings. It's like, who cares? Literally, the only people who care are you. Or AEW and fucking Brian Alvarez. And I read the Brian Alvarez thing like 3 months ago, too, to be honest. I just didn't mention it because it's stupid. If they move, they move. If they don't, they don't. Who cares?
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't matter.
It's just another night of fucking wrestling. Like, I know Impact's on Tuesdays. But
so AEW.
Oh my God! Impact versus NXT.
Who cares about AEW Dark? I don't think AEW
It's a
cares about
YouTube
AEW
show.
Dark. You can watch that anytime.
Yeah, it's a YouTube show.
So, quick rundown of Revolution via time. Young Bucks versus Inner Circle. Team Taz versus Darby Allin and Sting in a street fight. Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose or somebody for the women's title.
Wow.
Some Asian. Adam Page versus Matt Hardy in a big money match. Winner receives a loser's. That's stupid. 2020 first quarter. That's dumb as fuck.
First quarter salary.
Face the Revolution ladder match for a future TNA title match. Cody Rhodes versus Scorpio Side versus Pentagon Jr. versus Lance Archer versus Preston Vance or Max Caster or somebody else. Exploding barbed wire death match.
That's going to be good.
AEW title, Moxley. Omega versus Moxley.
Moxley.
Oh.
Last year's
Moxley.
Revolution match, I said they went. The last year's match, I said they went. I had 2 words in my notes. It was too much. I have a feeling.
Oh, it's going to be too much. It's going to be way too much.
I'm going to put one word in. I'm going to put one word in mine. Stupid.
Yeah, I was going to. Fuck. They have a lot to live up to.
An unnamed person for the ladder match. Tony Khan said that somebody is going to be a surprise, but he hasn't said who it is yet.
Big Show.
Nobody, and there's no, but there's no rumors out on who it's going to be either.
It's Big Show. Casino tag team battle royal for the fucking future title match.
Didn't they literally just have that like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Rusev and Kip Sabian versus Best Friends. That's it.
It's not a battle royal. The casino thing is a Royal Rumble.
Okay, whatever. Same thing.
It's not a Royal Rumble and a battle royal. Not the same thing. You fucking know.
That's the same thing.
Oh, it's bad.
Do what you want.
I'm gonna mail you a box of exploding Legos so you can step on a Lego.
Well done.
Exploding Legos?
Sure, you're right. I one or the other.
You can get that shirt and other shirts at store.thewrestlingshow.com. That's all we've got. Seriously, that's all we got. So plugs. Chip, what's your Twitter again?
The Sports Guru 728. I'm actually going to be doing my podcast right after we're done here. Also this week, UFC 259. 3 titles are going to be on the line. Really good card coming up.
Yeah, the 5th most popular wrestling promotion, according to Dave Meltzer's fans. Ryan, what's your Twitter? Your twatter?
Ryan Buck 85.
Awesome. You got anything to plug?
God no. Retirement's fun.
Okay, go. Wow. Show Facebook.com/Sleazy and the Fat Man. At Sleazy Fat Man. I am at TWS Sleazy. Fat Man's at TWS Fat Man. We're still on Instagram technically at Sleazy Fat Man. I just got banned again, but we'll be back. Too many Asians. If you watch the Facebook connector for that and Instagram, I fuck with the bots, and that's the problem. We still have our YouTube show. We're not doing our this show on YouTube, but keep an eye out for there. It's youtube.com/Sleazy and the Fat Man. We're going to be putting out other shows like specials and stuff on the YouTube channel. So you'll be getting video shows here, there, and everywhere. We'll probably do our watch alongs on there. We'll do all sorts of different content out there. So keep an eye out for that. We'll keep you notified on our social medias. GearNetwork.com. We are here every week, Saturdays, 8 a.m. now. Anywhere where you get your podcast through Gear Network, and check out all the Gear Network shows that are out there. Anything else? I feel like I'm forgetting something else too.
No, I don't think so.
Well, for Sleazy.
For the Fat Man.
This is the Wrestling Show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Peace.
I'm a truth that you seem to run from. I'm an army of one. I'm a clip in your gun. I'm the pain of the game. The blood shedding your name. When there's nothing to gain, I'm a world gone sad.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.